So listen to this, in 2010 PSG fans got to vote for the best player in the history of the club, so who do you think won? Ronaldinho, Jorge Weah, Okocha, Anelka? No, it was Pedro Pauleta, and just a few years later Eurosport named him the third best player in the history of the French league. We are talking about a man who only started consistently playing for the Portuguese national team when he was 27 years of age and still managed to become their all-time top scorer, only being beaten by Cristiano Ronaldo, and even he needed 21 more matches than Pauleta to equal his goal-scoring record. He was a late bloomer like very few, just keep in mind he played for 15 years before he debuted in the Champions League. But still, at his peak he rejected everyone from Arsenal to Man City and still managed to be nominated for the Ballon d'Or while playing for a team that was battling for relegation the moment he left them. Had he just taken the offers from big clubs, everyone would be putting his name beside the all-time greatest goal-scoring machines, and still most of you probably have no idea who he is. But for the Portuguese, before Cristiano Ronaldo, there was Pedro Pauleta, and I'm sure you're gonna love his story, so enjoy. Pauleta was born in Azores. He says his parents never really let him play in the streets, but the first time they did, he spent the day playing football and it was immediately goal after goal. Right there, he decided he didn't want to do anything else, so at 14, he quit school to follow his dream, but the dream wasn't to become a football legend, nah, he just wanted to play for the biggest club in his tiny island. However, his dad wasn't having it. He had been a football lover as well. In fact, he was kind of a local legend. Everyone spoke of how talented he was back in his time. Even today, many insist he was better than Pauleta, but reality was that his career went nowhere. His peak was a goal against Benfica in a match his team lost 17-1. Despite loving it for many years, he was now convinced football was a waste of time and he wouldn't have his own son following that same path, so he forced him to work alongside him painting houses from the day he left school. Regardless, that didn't stop him. He had already played for 3 different clubs and was now at the Santa Clara Academy, one of the few good teams in Azores. But then he was called up for the under-16 national team and things escalated. He got a trial at the first division club Vitória de Setúbal, but before he even made it there, Benfica called his parents and asked to sign him permanently. However, there was not a single day he didn't cry. He had never been without his parents, and after 2 weeks, they were forced to send him back. He kept being told by everyone what a mistake that had been. He had wasted his one opportunity, but then he actually got another, winning the regional championship with Santa Clara and going on to face FC Porto, who'd immediately asked to sign him after the match. Now older and wiser, things went much better. He didn't cry, he didn't ask to leave, but he also didn't play much. They didn't see that much potential in him, and after a year he was asked to pick between 2 satellite clubs, and instead he just went back to Azores. It seemed the dream had died. Everyone kept telling him it did, but in reality, it was only the start of an exhausting, unparalleled 15-year journey. It all started at Santa Clara, playing in the Portuguese 3rd division, earning €1,000 a month, sending most of the money either into savings or to his parents while working as a delivery man on the side. It seemed hopeless. He was still struggling to leave a mark, and after a year, he moved to the 4th division, playing for Operário Lagoa, where he got drafted for mandatory military service. It seemed it was time to quit, but first Pauleta had a plan. He got a bootleg X-ray scan of a man with asthma and used it to ask the army to be let go, but the moment he showed them the scan, they asked him what kind of inhaler he used and he had no idea what to say, so they laughed and told him, "You're clearly good to go, plus if that was really your scan, you would be dead by now." What followed was 8 months in the army. He became a chauffeur for a commander, and every weekend he would have to ask him for permission to leave for his match. Thankfully, they grew to like him and things went smoothly every time. Seeing his rise to the top, one thing was always clear. Though the humbleness of Pauleta could at times make him appear dull, leaving everyone wishing he would hog the spotlight just a bit more, it also made him arguably one of the most likable people to ever step on the pitch, and everyone who met him was determined to help him reach the top. After being released from the army, another 4th division club took on the opportunity to sign him immediately, more than doubling his wages and signing many other promising players in their quest for promotion, as well as signing a coach who was literally known as the poor man's Mourinho. Unfortunately, after less than a year, the entire project had collapsed, with many of the investors filing for bankruptcy. Suddenly, Pauleta was only earning around €400 a month. At this point, he was already about to turn 23 years old, and after being forced to move to yet another 4th-tier club, things were not looking very good. However, it all took a turn. Pauleta was already dating his eventual wife, but they were very conservative and he wasn't even allowed to go into her house, only talking to her through the window of her room. Until one day, his mother-in-law received a call from a football agent looking for a way to talk to Pauleta after months without any luck. He wanted to sign him with second-tier club Estoril. Pauleta wasn't ever the most ambitious person. He was happy living on his little island, but then his mother-in-law said one thing that changed his career forever. "If you sign the contract, I will let you marry my daughter." And believe me, he never looked back. They married on the 8th of July, traveled to Estoril on the 9th, living in a one-bedroom completely black with mold, and by the 10th, he was already in training. They didn't even go on a honeymoon. At Estoril, he scored 18 league goals, only 3 less than the league's top scorer, despite being 5 points off of relegation. For the first time in years, his talent was getting some recognition. Belenenses had just gone on a ridiculous run that saw them nearly qualify for the UEFA Cup, and their coach João Alves believed that Pauleta was a massively overlooked talent. So he went all out for his transfer, only for the board to decide otherwise and stop all negotiations. But that was right when Salamanca, who were plotting a way to get back to La Liga, decided to hire him as their new coach, allowing him to once again go for Pauleta. But then, medical exams showed he was struggling with a pelvic injury, and once again the board intervened trying to stop the transfer. But this time, João Alves stood his ground, saying that a little injury wasn't gonna stop Pauleta, and well, it really didn't. The board even tried to manipulate him into staying in Portugal, saying he would only ever be their 4th choice striker, but Pauleta took that as a challenge. Despite the heavy investment, Salamanca kicked off the season horribly, not a single win until the coach had enough and gave Pauleta a shot. The results were immediate, 2 goals and the first win of the season. The other strikers come back and Pauleta goes back to the bench and they go on 4 consecutive losses. Pauleta gets to start again and scores a hat-trick, earning them yet another win. So he gets a run of 5 games as a starter and scores 4 goals, with Salamanca now getting 4 wins as well, cementing Pauleta as their first choice striker against all odds. From that moment on, they went crazy, going on a run of 28 matches with only 1 defeat all the way till the end of the season, with Pauleta taking them from being literally 1 point above the relegation line to finishing 1 point off of the title and earning promotion to La Liga, scoring 19 goals in 24 starts and winning the awards for the league's top scorer and player of the year. He even recalls getting his contract renewed multiple times that season, constantly getting raises, because as he used to tell the president, "I earn less than anyone in the squad and I'm the one who scores all the goals." This season earned Pauleta his first ever call-up to the Portuguese national team, lining up alongside the likes of Rui Costa and Luís Figo, making history by being the first player to be called up without playing a single first division match, only made more impressive by the fact he was already 25 years old. I'm sure everyone was wondering where he had been all that time. Before we go on, let me tell you about the sponsor of this video, Private Internet Access. It's people like them that make this channel possible, so if you really like the content I make, pay attention to this. Nowadays, being on the internet is like playing with a battery. It's all gonna be flowing and you're gonna have a lot of fun, but your defense is compromised, and sooner or later, you're gonna concede a goal that could ruin your whole season. What I mean by this is that there's a lot of bad people online. Twitch made $2.6 million last year and still managed to get themselves hacked. So, what makes you think you're safe? Well, to me, it's Private Internet Access VPN. They're completely transparent, they never record or store your data, and they always make sure you're 100% safe. It's like suddenly your defense goes from 2008 Derby County to 1990s Milan. There's a reason it has been downloaded over 30 million times. After all, not only does it protect you, it also gives you access to streaming content that's only available in foreign countries. And the best thing is that with the link in the description, it says cheap as $2.11 a month. So if you want to help the channel, go down and click the link. Let's get back to the video. The following season, an hilarious moment took place. Pauleta, despite now making more money than most people can imagine, was still only driving a Renault Clio. That's the kind of person he was, but living among football stars, he was starting to dream about something more, and once the president asked him, "My dear Pauleta, what do you wish for?" He told him he wanted a BMW 3 Series like one of his teammates had, so the president told him, almost in a joking manner considering how absurd it sounded, "If you score 15 goals in La Liga, I'll give you the car." Despite all the struggles at Salamanca, having only won 3 matches by December, somehow Pauleta was on 8 goals already. He was literally saving them from relegation all by himself. But then he went 9 matches without a goal, and with 6 matches left in the league, being 1 point off of relegation, the president asked, "What the hell is going on with Pauleta? Is it the car? If it's the car, then tell him I'll give him the car." This kind of offended Pauleta, went up to the president and told him, "No one is giving me anything. By the end of the season, I'll have the 15 goals." It seemed impossible with only 6 impressively tough matches remaining, but then he went off. First they met Valencia and Pauleta pulls off the impossible, inspiring the team with 2 goals and leading them towards an absurd 6-0 win. Then 2 matches later comes Sporting Gijon and Pauleta scores another 2, winning 4-0. By the time the last match came around, Pauleta had to get exactly 2 goals to get the 15 he needed for the car, and the team had to beat Barcelona at the Camp Nou. And you better be sure he scored them, historically beating Barcelona 4-1 in their own stadium. Absurd. By the time Pauleta got back, his BMW was waiting for him, and he told the president, "I hope you know by now that this car was earned, not given." From that moment on, offers began pouring down, Porto, Benfica, Udinese, but Pauleta decided to instead sign for Deportivo, and whoa, this was a pretty hard time in his career. He was talked up to be the next Bebeto, but then he hit a bit of a slump, getting injury after injury and eventually being kind of left behind. With the arrival of Roy McKay the following season, even after an incredible run of 10 goals in 10 matches as Pauleta tried to hold on to his place in the team, he eventually faded into the background regardless, with Deportivo's historic La Liga win feeling bittersweet as he of course wished he could have been more involved. After a minor cameo in the Euro 2000 with Pauleta being already 29, most people find it easy to bet that he was probably never gonna be a major part of the national team, and even that he was already past his peak. But then he moved to Bordeaux looking for redemption. Once again, he quickly got things started. He arrived in France on a Monday, training for the first time on a Tuesday, and on Wednesday, he scored a hat-trick against Nantes. Just a couple weeks later, he got another hat-trick in the UEFA Cup, then a goal against Monaco, and a brace against PSG. By November, he was the league's star player already, and Bordeaux were top of the table. Eventually, they would finish only 4th, but with 20 league goals, Pauleta had shocked everyone and turned himself into one of the most informed strikers in all of Europe. In his second season, things only got better, scoring 35 goals, taking Bordeaux to their first title in a decade as they won the League Cup, with Pauleta scoring the winner against Monaco in the quarters, the winner against PSG in the semis, and 2 absurd world-class goals against Lorient in the final, including an astonishing scissor kick. Even if Bordeaux only finished 6th place in the league that year, Pauleta did a clean sweep, top scorer, player of the year, forward of the year, best foreign player of the year. He was even the World Cup qualification stage's top scorer. Every award that was available was quite simply taken. He was the new king of France. Transfer offers began coming in, but Bordeaux was clear. He only leaves for 30 million euros, which at the time would have made him one of the most expensive players of all time. A deal was not reached then, but many wanted him, from Arsenal to City to PSG, and that finally warranted him a place as a starter for the Portuguese national team in the 2002 World Cup. The squad was incredible, and Pauleta even delivered a hat-trick right on his second match, but with a massive upset against the United States and an infamous match against South Korea, Portugal were out on the group stage. After another season at Bordeaux and 30 more goals scored, Pauleta, now 32 years old, became the first player in history to win the French League's Player of the Year award in 2 consecutive seasons. But with no trophies won and missing qualification to the Champions League by 1 single point and his contract running out, he took the opportunity to force a transfer to a club that could get him on the biggest of stages, joining PSG for only 12 million euros, an absolute bargain. Still, many were skeptical, with Ronaldinho having just left the club after a disastrous 11th place finish. Signing a 32-year-old goal scorer who had spent most of his career in the second tier seemed utterly absurd, but his start showed just how incredibly wrong everyone was. By December, Pauleta had PSG battling for the league title once again, scoring one important goal after the other and earning himself a Ballon d'Or nomination. It had been only 6 years since he was playing in the Spanish second tier. Pauleta would go on to play some of the best matches of his career that season, with the one against Drogba's Marseille standing out as he scored twice to beat them 2-1, with his second goal being an absolute screamer, and his first eventually being voted as simply the greatest goal ever scored by PSG. By the end of the season, they had won the French Cup with Pauleta scoring in every single match and had finished only 3 points off of champions Lyon, who at the time were virtually unbeatable, winning 7 titles in a row. Pauleta was absolutely on fire, and with the Euro 2004 being played in Portugal, with Figo on his right and young Cristiano Ronaldo on the left, everyone was waiting for them to take over, and they almost did, going all the way and losing the final to Greece. Pauleta did not score a single goal in the tournament. It was the only time in his career that he started 5 consecutive matches for Portugal without scoring, and it happened when they needed him the most. In the eyes of many fans, it was a major stain in his legacy. What they didn't know was that he was struggling to even play. In a training session before the tournament started, he had suffered an infection in one of his toenails that swelled up his big toe to the point he had to literally cut his boots for the foot to fit in. And throughout the tournament, he played every match through massive pain, always on medication, having to take several injections on his foot to even be able to step on the ground without pain. It just wasn't fair to judge him like that. Regardless, the following 2 seasons were indeed a letdown, as even with Pauleta consistently scoring, in the first season PSG only won 4 matches until December, wasting their opportunities both domestically and in the Champions League, and eventually finishing trophyless. Then in the second of those it was about the same, except for one positive side. They won the French Cup, with Pauleta, as you might have guessed, being the hero with 5 goals in 6 matches. That same season Pauleta once again topped the goal-scoring charts at the World Cup qualifications, and those 11 goals were enough to make him the national team's all-time top scorer, despite having only broken the 10-goal barrier at 29 years of age, outdoing the great Eusebio, who would take the time to call him at halftime to congratulate him for his achievements. Little did they know that the 19-year-old Cristiano they had both been mentoring would go on to score more than the two put together. Still, arriving at the 2006 World Cup despite coming from a streak of 27 goals in 33 matches, Pauleta had to share his role with Nuno Gomes, and after a goal and an assist in the group stage, he eventually watched Portugal finish just short of the final thanks to a Zidane penalty once again in what would be Pauleta's final match of his career with the national team, totaling 47 goals in 88 matches. From there on out, the end of his career was quite simply hilarious, and it started with his final 2 seasons at PSG. First saving them from a shocking relegation by being the league's top scorer despite them finishing in 15th place, and then being mostly played only in League Cup matches after some problems with a new coach, eventually delivering the hardest of blows as he took PSG to win another League Cup, earning them qualification to the UEFA Cup, as he scored in every single match, totaling 7 goals, making the coach look ridiculous as they finished 3 points short of relegation in the league, where they had been brushing him to the side. Regardless, at 35, though he ended his career sooner than expected, crying on his way out of the pitch as the fans roared out his name, he still had one more season in him, coming back to play a 4-match tournament for the equivalent of a Sunday League club in his hometown 3 years later, and as I said, it was hilarious. Once he came back at halftime as they were losing 3-0 and scored 6. Then in the final, he scored 7, and they won the cup for the first time in their history. Pauleta had proven that no matter at what level he was playing, it was inevitable that he would bring his team goal after goal after goal.